Hi, I'm Nick. So this is going to just be a story about me falling into the biggest rabbit hole pretty much for a CTF challenge within one of the courses, but pretty much stumbling upon something completely new and different that actually is also highly applicable to many societies at UNSW, and also probably in other universities as well. So first things first, good faith policy and disclaimer. So everything here is for educational purposes and done with good intentions, with no way to harm or interfere with third parties or people. Probably very important to point out in this talk, considering what's coming up later on. And I pretty much hope that you find this talk interesting and informative. So why talk about this? So our story starts off with Recon TXT. What is the first thing you think about Recon TXT? Well, for me at least, Recon challenge, or TXT, which is .txt, or text files, right, as file extension types. Well, in this case, it isn't, but follow on with me. So let's have this idea of default thoughts, because things are set on defaults because people can be lazy, people don't know how to change from the default configurations, or it's not the primary function of applications to change from its default configurations, because if it works, it works. So much like a door, you think of a key, or a boring lecture, you think of sleep, or 2 times speed, or bed, you also think about sleep. For WordPress, you probably think about all of these directories as your admin panel, which are set as your default. Or login, you should probably try admin. Router, you can also try admin, or also routerpasswords.com, which tells you default credentials of different routers depending on the manufacturer. So most sites have robots.txt. What is robots.txt? So search engines such as Google, they have bots which scrape and go through the internet to pretty much provide you with this really nice looking page on results with high similarities to what you're actually looking for. So as you can see here in robots.txt, you're pretty much telling bots what they can and can't do. You can give particular examples to bots, so tell particular bots what they can or can't do. So most sites have robots.txt, but the asset that we'll talk about for the first half of this talk, quokkabank.com, does not have robots.txt. But that's completely fine, because they can be humans.txt, security.txt, me.txt, bot.txt, or it can pretty much be any file name, really, because it's just a txt file placed within a website. But that's fine, because scripting is cool. So you can iterate through some large word list and try iterate through them to see if this file name actually exists within the website. In this case, I found nothing, but that's fine because scripting is cool. So you can iterate through each subdomain, and for each subdomain, you can try find if that file name actually exists in that subdomain. Yeah, I found nothing. This also takes a really long time, depending on which word list you use. But that's fine because you can actually iterate through each directory as well. No, you just don't do that. So TXT is in caps for a reason, though. So what you can do, this leads us into DNS, or domain name systems. So at the end of the day, websites are just associated with one or more different IP addresses. So it pretty much tells the computers where to go to load the actual web page. So if you were to search up quokkabank.com, your computer would be like, where's that? Let me search up quokkabank.com and where's that? And it'll reach somehow into an IP address. So you can actually test this yourself. If you search up any of these domains, you'll always land on the same web page. So you can actually check this in DNS Dumpster, which is one of the tools which gives you a summary of DNS information. So dig also does this. It's a Linux command which gives you information about subdomains and DNS information, and you can add additional flags on the command line to give you additional information depending on what you're looking for. So this falls into our SPF rabbit hole. If you go and look at the DNS TXT record of quokkabank.com, it gives you a lot of information about SPF, and it's pretty much a buzzword, and it can look really daunting to someone who's never seen this before. So this leads us to, what is SPF? So SPF is to verify domain ownership and to also ensure email security. It is a way for the email provider to actually check and see that you are who you say you are. So probably in any organization, your own personal emails, you're always being hit with phishing emails. And Security Society is no exception. We've been getting so many phishing emails, and they've tried their best by using other people within our society to communicate, going oh, can you please do this for me? But hey, they actually could have done this a little bit better. They used a really obscure email, something@gmail.com, which kind of gives it away. They could have used something like person@unswsecurity.com. So most times how emails are structured within organizations, they usually have like first name at domain name or first name dot last name at domain name. And most of the times there's a few variations depending on like middle names or like add a number here or there if you have many people of the same name within your organization. But yeah, you can, and also most organizations, they have like an Our Team page in which you can access it, you can get your first names, you can get your last names, some descriptions of what their hobbies and interests are, as well as like contact information, which can go against you. So let's talk about SPF mechanisms. So these are the different mechanisms that you put together to pretty much create an SPF statement. So the main ones here that I'm going to be talking at least for this talk is include and all. So in include, you're pretty much just whitelisting authorized third-party senders which you're permitting to use. And all mechanism is pretty much your behavior of whether to accept or reject through authentication. So why is this important? Now we're going to move away from the challenge pretty much, and we're going to talk about timeline. So finishing recon.txt, I pretty much messaged someone going like, oh yeah, I spent way too much time on SPF that is like completely unrelated, and went to the biggest rabbit holes. He pretty much laughed at me, but that got me thinking, like, maybe security society is impacted by this. So if I use a tool such as Kitterman to check the SPF record, and as you can see, there's no valid SPF record. So when I try to use an anonymous emailer, there's the one that I used that's linked up there, I can send it to myself and it's sent directly into my inbox, no problems at all. So I can, as you can see, in this case at least, I sent an email from fake@unswsecurity.com, even though I shouldn't have access to that. So I took a little bit of a break after finding this. I had other stuff to do, so I took like a 5-day break. And when I came back, I tried using that Linux command to give me DNS information. And oh, there's an FPF now added into the DNS.txt record, so can't really play around with it anymore. And this could like completely happen because, oh yeah, you saw the next slide. This can completely happen because like people find things all the time, things get fixed. Maybe I was just a little bit too slow. So quick note, that leads us into CSESOC. So CSESOC, just quick disclaimer, just a quick note here, they don't use this domain to send emails, but it's still an asset in which they still host a lot of their sites and applications on, such as from their projects team. And even though you're not, they don't use it, being able to spoof from that domain is still gives a highly believable impression and is just, yeah, you don't want that to happen. So CSESOC uses like a $all mechanism. So what does that mean? So the first thing I did was actually try it, but the second thing I did was actually understand what it does. So as you can see here, here are your different mechanisms for all. You have plus all, which is to like generally accept everything. It's pretty much no matter who the host is, you're pretty much always going to accept it. You have minus all, which is like you being very strict. Only the assets or hosts that you have included within your include mechanisms are allowed to send through the message. You also have a normal, which is like a soft fail, which I'll show a bit more later on how that looks like. And you also have like a all, which is what CSESOC uses. So what it actually does, if you read there, it actually does nothing to state the validity of the authentication. It neither accepts or rejects that it is fake. So what does this mean? It means that you may as well just not have an SPF. So if we just keep going, it means that anyone can do this to CSESOC as well. So here I sent it from events at the CSESOC domain, and as you can see, it goes straight into my inbox, no problems at all. So it looks like every society might actually want to look out for this, because if CSESOC can't do this for some of their assets, and Security Society also got it wrong, there are a lot of societies out there which might also have the same issue. And in fact, there are a lot of societies which have this issue. So if you can see, they use one of these three all mechanisms. So the plus all, a all, or just no SPF at all. And this goes back to this idea of default thoughts, things set on default. The default setting of SPF is that there is not even an SPF added at all. If someone is inexperienced and they don't know how SPF works, they might use a all, which is like the largest catchphrase in which you still have an SPF, but it doesn't really do much. So yeah, why is this important? It's important because you don't want impersonators at all. People using your domain, yeah, that's not good because societies all the time, they're sending emails to sponsors and also to community. So in many cases, these information are highly sensitive, containing like money or personal information. It could also include things like, hey, there's like an event coming up, go buy tickets or something, or hey, we're also selling hoodies, buy hoodies here, so you could just create your own link. I think Security Society is also giving out hoodies as well. And it could also damage your reputation. If something happens to you and it affects someone, that person that's affected is going to be more like iffy clicking links from you, and you pretty much damage that reputation that way. Sponsors particularly, they don't want to be associated with people who, or organizations or entities which could be a security risk to them themselves. It's also hard to deny that you didn't send it. Pretty much the only way that that person, you can figure out that someone actually used your domain is if your attackers, whoever the attacker messaged, they reply back to you going, like the proper domain, going like, did you actually send this? Like, is this you? Why are you asking me to do this? Or something like that. And of course, this can be chained with other attacks such as phishing. So let's talk about attacking more in depth. So CSE SOC sends out a newsletter like every week. So we can just yoink that, copy and grab all the code for that, just inspect element, and paste that into our anonymous emailer. Make sure you render it because you actually want to send a rendered code, not like plain text, or that would be really weird and awkward, I guess. And you can make whatever changes you want. So you just chuck that into your favorite code editor. I hope no one's code looks like this. But I guess when you copy and like take code through inspect element, it's a little bit messy and there's nothing much you can do unless you like chuck it into another website to like clean it up a little bit. But yes, you can change it any way you want. And a great thing about VS Code at least, which is why I used it, is because you can use a live reload extension in which you can see in real time whatever changes you're doing, which is great. It really like takes it away from that mess. Makes it a little bit easier. And you can also find errors and change them as needed. So you can make it into your own publication, make it say whatever you want, and then if you want to be more specific, add your own spear phishing attempt. As a proof of concept, at least, I took one of these emails, the newsletters at least, I changed all the links to Rickrolls, because why not, and sent it straight to myself. And as you can see, lands right into my inbox. It's perfectly fine. And this even works on Outlook, since all of us here at UNSW use Outlook. So SPF prevention. So again, you need to construct a mechanism, an SPF statement, which using all these mechanisms to pretty much that is valid, and it's going to depend from organization to organization, depending on what you use and what third-party senders you allow. And at this page, I actually realized going like, oh, Security Society actually didn't fix it. The issue was that it actually was never created properly. And as you can see, Kitterman actually just takes a regex to see if it is a valid SPF. And here it says there's no valid SPF, which means, and the issue was that it was just missing one character. It was missing a 1. And this, because there's no version SPF, there's a version SPF1 though. And this goes back to this idea of like, oh, it can be the smallest mistakes that really like cause you to be vulnerable to something. And lead you to impersonators in this case. If you think about it at least, the history of TXT records, you can do whatever you want on TXT records. You can write comments on it. You can write just a bunch of gibberish. You can obscure anything you want. You can like write some obscure messages that are personal, secret, I don't know. They're not really secret, anyone can find them. And to make an SPF valid, and why this issue is like so easy to miss, is that you have to construct it in a way that's exactly like how it is intended. Because DNS TXT records can be used for anything. If you want it to register that it is an SPF record, it has to be constructed correctly. And just here, as you can see, afterwards, this is the soft fail. It gives you this warning at Google. So it tells you like, be careful with this message, blah, 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 which is probably what you want seen if someone's actually spoofing the email. And so to complete the story, since it was still vulnerable, I pretty much sent what one of the scammers were trying to send us, but now to myself from a domain, jane@unswsecurity.com, because why not? It doesn't show up as a scam. Google doesn't like give me flashing red banners, yellow banners. Yes. It can be whatever you want. But yeah, there's a small problem, and there is a way around this, definitely. For university students, this will be affected. There is a way around this for university students. But in this case, yes, there is a small problem in which there's like a question mark next to the profile picture. So let's just hover over it. Google cannot verify that unswsecurity.com, and then literally 1 second after hovering it, it covers the latter half of the error statement with a profile picture. Very convenient. You gotta be a very fast reader. It's literally 1 second. So you could hover back and forth again and to see if it actually works. So let me just say that here, I might just like do a quick jump here. No one actually, I don't think, has ever told me going like, oh yeah, if there's like a question mark with the profile picture, it's probably a scam. I don't think anyone said that. More so, like images don't load all the time. For instance, you might have slow internet, which usually images is the largest contributor to like the website not loading. Some people also state, oh, like, if you have spelling mistakes or like lots of grammar issues within the contents of the email, then it's probably phishing or a scam. Whilst it is true, a lot of modern scams are actually very good with English because there's a lot of English assistance tools out there. So for instance, like Grammarly, for instance, you can, they have like grammar checks, spelling checks, and all that stuff. Well, why is this error occurring? Well, it could be because of like invalid digital signature or like public or private key verification. Not entirely sure. It could be also because when you do SPF and it is neutral, it doesn't check for DKIM or DMARC, which are other security verification tools. But as you can see, we all use Outlook. And in Outlook, so university students, UNSW, we use Outlook. And as you can see, in profile picture, there is no question mark next to it. So it actually works perfectly fine against a university student. There are no flags whatsoever. As you can see, in this case at least, I sent an engineering society email to myself through CSESOC, because why not? I may as well just note as well that you probably shouldn't send emails to yourself using like an anonymous emailer or like online. I just took one for the team to like sort of understand how it would interact with like the university emailing system. And as you can see, I got 50 junk mail in the past 30 days, some of which are actually important, and UNSW just puts in junk mail for whatever reason. And this email, which is completely like random and shouldn't be in my inbox, does not go into junk mail. So yeah, as you can see, you can actually click on the profile. It creates a profile summary, and as you can see, nothing suspicious at all. And that's not being sarcastic. There actually isn't anything suspicious at all when you send it to a UNSW student who uses Outlook. So fixing it is really easy. You just need to ask someone who has domain administrator account to add a DNS TXT record with an actual valid SPF record. And this pretty much took like 5-10 minutes with a conversation with someone, and it was easily fixed. And here's a before and after. So before, there's like no warning. It's like you can send it. Yeah, you could have done this on Outlook, but I don't know. I just kept doing it on my like dummy email on Gmail. And on the after, you have this like warning sign in which the SPF was actually implemented properly. So this is what SPF does. And so, results. So made our university society safer. Please remember good faith policy. Please don't go out now and just go like, oh yeah, this society is vulnerable, let's impersonate them. Or this society is vulnerable, yeah. Please don't do that. Instead, if you know someone or have a domain, you can quickly check the DNS TXT record, check if it actually has a valid SPF, because there are a lot of societies out there, at UNSW particularly, that do not do this properly. And this, again, could be because of like, you don't have the technical skills, especially if it's one engineer running or the entire infrastructure. They may not know what this is, or they don't even know what SPF is, which again, could be contributors because things are set on default. And security makes security fun and scary. It always has been. Yes, so wait, firstly, I don't know if I said it, but the main key point was, yes, if you know someone and you see that there is an issue for the society, please let them know so that they can fix it, and your community will thank you, and their sponsors will also thank you. And that's it, pretty much. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed.